Welcome back. This next video is going to be about presentation supporting content, similar to PowerPoints, videos, music, whatever it is that you want to use to visually, audio, make your presentation be more effective for your audience. Now, we're going to begin with the most common, well-known, the PowerPoint. All right. Now I'm going to make my personal bias really clear here. I don't like PowerPoints. And I'm working on that. They tend to not be used well, but they are still very much industry standard, and it's a good thing to familiarize yourself with, right? So, PowerPoints, what makes them work? And more importantly, what makes them not work? We've all probably seen multiple examples of the not work category, right? When you have the block of text and someone puts it up there and it's like a page from a book and they just turn around, they're like, now I will read the words that you are probably already halfway through reading very slowly, one line at a time. Like I mentioned previously, narrating and putting your attention on anything but your audience is a recipe for a lack of connection. And if you're not connecting, you're not succeeding in your communication goals, especially when engaged with the public, right? So PowerPoints, how do we make them not be just pure suffering, right? Keep them brief. Anytime you got text, bullet points, short, fragments, very focused, no full-length paragraphs, nothing that will tempt you or the audience to draw your attention to it and just begin reading. I need to be able to scan it and then move on, all right? Think of it as an image. Even when it's just text, you want that text to be an image that is taken in very quickly and reinforces your point. And then as you make it, maybe I refer back to just, oh, okay, I see it, elaborates on something that was already there, right? It's most effective when you use it to show things that are hard to say, right? So like a graph, you can do a graph for a company and their profits over the course of 100 years, right? Or however long, 10 years, 20 years. And instead of being like, in this year, this happened, this year, that happened, trying to talk that out, that's a lot. But a graph can be like up, down, straight. Like, okay, cool. The point's gotten across, right? Images, pictures, visuals, those sort of quickly understandable pieces of content that are just harder to frame and adjust with your language. That's great. That's wonderful. Let it support you. Do not let it replace you, right? You need enough slides in there where it's going to stay fresh and not get stagnant. If you've taught for 5 minutes on a single slide, it's not the end of the world, depending on what's on that slide and what your point is and how long your presentation is. But if you got a 3 to 5 minute presentation, you probably want to be changing it, every 1 to 2 slides a minute is kind of standard. I see people talk about a lot. This can be adjusted. The longer your presentation gets, the less that holds up, because then it's just like overwhelmingly too many slides. And if you get to the point where there's too many slides, then it's just too much and it's not helpful. All right. Understand your audience always has a limited capacity. It's a really useful concept. They have a limited capacity to take in information. And if you overwhelm them, even with good intentions, they're just going to turn off. All right. So keep those PowerPoints short and to the point, and make sure the focus stays on you. That's the key. And that you're not letting that PowerPoint take your focus away from your audience. Now, PowerPoint has a lot of great tools that can help with the layout and keep it organized. There's even a lot of the AI stuff built into that can help adjust your layout. Some things you really want to mentally monitor. First of all, use those baseline tools for how easy it is to make it look professionally organized. It's even more noticeable now when it's just white background with black text and not really formatted at all. So make use of some of those baselines. Pay attention to contrast. Make sure if you have a darker colored text, you have a lighter colored background, or vice versa, lighter colored text, dark colored background. Make sure it's readable to your audience. Understand that it needs to be big enough to connect with wherever they'll be sitting if you're using it on a computer device. And I'll have a separate video talking about how to screen record and capture some of the technical details. Then make sure it is set up where your audience can see it. Nothing is more distracting than a presentation that's supposed to do something, but it's too small to read. And it's like audience is squinting, trying to see it, right? And so just make sure it is supporting you and making the attention and the value you deliver through your speaking and communication more effective, all right? That's kind of the baseline, right? The biggest thing to understand, though, visual aids especially, right? The content you bring with you, very useful, very valuable, can help engage your audience, show in addition to telling, it's good. And there's lots of ways to do it. Be open-minded to things other than just PowerPoint, but since it's such an industry standard, oftentimes that's the expectation. I'm perfectly fine if you use it in my courses. Just plan in live events, right? When recording, it's not as relevant, but when you're doing live events, it's really important to have this understanding that we talked about back in the beginning. Mistakes happen and they're part of public speaking. They're part of our communication in the day-to-day. Plan what happens if this doesn't work? What happens if my presentation supporting content will not turn on? My PowerPoint won't load, the projector won't work. Have that be part of your practice and your training, because it's not gonna at some time, especially if you have to do it multiple times, all right? It's just not gonna. And so it's actually a real good opportunity. It sounds weird, but let's say you go to give an important presentation at work and you share with your audience and you have a PowerPoint all put together, 20 slides or whatever, supposed to really guide the whole process. You turn on the projector and all of a sudden their computer won't work, the projector won't work, something's not happening, the file's not going somewhere, and your audience is just sitting there looking at you and you're supposed to be going, right? And that happens a lot in the classroom too. Once again, we get some wiggle room in the online from that, but you'll see students go up and they go to present and they try to get their stuff loaded. And I've known professors who will take off, like your time starts and however long it takes you to load up that PowerPoint, if it wasn't preloaded or ready to go, that often can count against you, right? Now, that's not who I am, especially when we're just learning this stuff, but the more advanced classes, you can definitely see that happening. So what do we do if it doesn't work? Be ready for that, because here's the thing, it's actually this unique opportunity. Everyone can empathize with their tech not working. It's just part of life. And so if you try to get it up there and your audience sees this isn't working, instead of just freezing up or just keep trying the same thing over and over, well, you'd be like, oh, well, this doesn't seem to be working right now, but you know what? We're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we're going to talk about, and you can, work in some references or comments to what was on there, what could have been. And most audiences will immediately connect with you on that because we've all been there. Something hasn't worked, right? And all of a sudden, if you can effectively deliver in the absence of what you were supposed to have available to you, well, I mean, think about when you've seen people make it work even when something wasn't working for them. It's really impressive. It really works well for you, right? So supporting content is valuable. Let it reinforce what you have to say, but do not let it replace you. If you use music, keep it low so it's not drowning you out, and don't overdo it unless you're trying to make one specific point. If you use videos, keep them short. Never hand off the focus from you for too long unless there's a very clear reason to do so. All right. And if you're making those PowerPoints, short, to the point, focus on images or visuals that will reinforce you and not replace you. And that's really all I want you to kind of take away when you're thinking about how to put these together. There's tons of guides and videos and information on how to create a PowerPoint and how to make a cool visual. There's even some really neat AI programs that'll, generate stuff for you based off of input, right? And the key is you are the focus. You are the source of value. You are the one who will connect with your audience. A PowerPoint won't, but it can help you if you keep it behind you, pushing you forward, and not in your way where you're going to trip over it. So just keep that in mind when you're putting these PowerPoints together, and I'll see you in the next video.